Happy Maker Monday, everybody. Today's Monday video is about embroidery. Today we are simply going to talk about 3 stabilizers. We're talking about 1 stabilizer and 2 toppers, actually. The thing that makes embroidery stabilizer designed for embroidery is the number of stitches it can hold. We exclusively sell Floriani products. Most of my stabilizers will hold between 6 and 10,000 stitches in 1 layer of stabilizer. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk applique. Okay, so we're going to make this little fat cat, because you'll notice, see, the kitty has cuddle on it. I am going to continue to preach the gospel of cuddle all the time because I love this stuff. And look at how cool this looks. Look at how that, and the reason I'm not using white today is because it doesn't show up on the camera very much. But look at how she looks like a big fuzzy fat cat. First thing we're going to talk about is, what do you put under your embroidery? My go-to under my embroidery is Floriani Perfect Stick Tearaway, depending on the application. The reason I like Perfect Stick is I want to get done as fast as possible. I like the Perfect Stick is because you don't have to hoop the fabric. So that means I've already made my quilt and now I want to add something to the block. Or I'm using cuddle and I don't want to get burns around the edge where the hoop goes in. We're also going to talk about when and why you use a topper. This is what the Perfect Stick Tearaway looks like. It is soft on one side is the actual stabilizer, the other side is papery. Okay, the paper is what comes off and lets you stick stuff in the hoop. Okay, I have a bit of stabilizer already in my hoop, and I'm doing a project that's not super big because I think sometimes I show people how to do stuff and I'm using the really big hoop that comes with my really sexy machine, and they don't have that, and so they think they can't do it. I am using a smaller hoop. Most machines come with a hoop this size and or bigger, and I'm going to show you how to handle this. So I put my stabilizer in my hoop. Stabilizer side is down, paper side is up. You'll see that this is pretty taut. Okay, so you want it to be kind of like a drum. All right, so this is the slippery paper is on the top. I'm going to take a straight pin. I'm just going to make an X. The X technique seems to work the best, at least for me. Okay, so I have a scored X in the middle here. Use the tip of my pin and just pull away just the paper. Don't rip through the stabilizer. So I've taken a piece of fabric that is bigger than my hoop. It doesn't have to be. I'm just going to pretend that this is a block that I want to embroider on. I'm putting my piece of fabric in the hoop and I'm going to just sort of lightly press it all the way around. Now, we are going to use a bit of black cuddle. So we have loaded our design. I'm going to show you another trick. So I can't swear to every brand machine, but I know that Brother and Baby Lock will do this with your embroidery design. It's handy to have your design stabilized or stitched down to hold down, especially if you're going to do a topping. So we're going to talk about that in a second, but we're going to do our little placement stitch. So see this little outline of the kitty? We're going to hit embroidery. And we're going to drop our foot and we're going to stitch out our placement line. So all this is doing is showing us where we're going to put down the piece of fabric that we're going to use to cover. This is really handy to have because then you don't have to have any guesswork about where your fabric is going to go. If you're really confident and you feel like you can get there without this, or you just want to cover the whole thing, go ahead. But I really like having a placement stitch because it's like insurance for me. So we have our placement line. I'm going to take my piece of fabric and I'm going to lay that, and I want to make sure that it covers my placement line. So the next thing we're going to stitch is the exact same line, which is now going to hold down our cuddle. Okay, so we have our line stitched out. We're going to remove our hoop from the machine. So you can't really see it because with Cuddle, the thread kind of sinks down inside, but I can see it so I can trim it away. These are applique scissors. There's a reason I like these applique scissors the best. One is because they have this sharp point at the end, so you can get down in the point. This beak goes under the fabric. So what it does is it lifts the fabric outside of your stitching line so that your scissors can get right next to the edge. When you are cutting away your excess, pick up your fabric and get right up to the edge. Sometimes you're going to have to cut twice just to get the extra fabric away. Just cut like you normally would, but you hold the scissors flat. Now, we've got Cuddle Mess. Flip her over. Kind of pat it like a drum. After all the embroidery is done and there's no more stitching to do, I'm going to take my whole block and I'm going to toss it in the dryer. I'm not going to wash it. I'm just going to toss it in the dryer because the dryer is going to agitate all the fluff, and it's going to end up in my lint collector instead of in my my block. This is very helpful when you're using a topper. We're going to go into Edit. Picture right here where we go into embroidery. Sorry, my camera kind of glitched out there for a second. Under layout, there's a picture of a flower with a little box around it. We're going to touch that button and it's going to make a box go all the way around my design. The reason that's nice is because when I put my topper on, that little box all the way around is going to hold my topper down. We are going to use a heat away topper. The reason I want a heat away topper is because if this goes in the washing machine, the topper is going to keep things like her eyeballs flat so that the fibers underneath the stitching don't pop out when she goes in the washing machine. I put a topper on everything. So if I'm going to make something that it doesn't have any fluff underneath it, so if it's just a regular cotton, you know, like a label for my quilt or something like that, then I'll use a wash away topper because there's nothing underneath it that's going to pop out. This is going to stitch down the edge of our topper just so that it doesn't wiggle. So it doesn't come up or get flipped over or something crazy happens. So all this stitch is going to do is make a design around what we're making, and it's going to just hold that topper down. Okay? We are going to start top stitching our kitty. We're going to take that away. You can pull these stitches out now if you like, or you can wait until you're all done. But if you pick up the topper and just sort of rip it, if you're nervous about the ripping with the stitches in there, then you can pull them out. But most of the time, they're just fine. Now, we have a little bit of fluff that's sticking up around the outside. You can give her a little hair trim if you want to. Now, we're going to take this back over the machine. We're going to pop her back in. And we're going to stitch out the rest of the design. We're going to talk about why we use the Heat and Gone. Remember we talked about how the Heat and Gone has little bubbles in it, has little perforations. The reason for that, everything's laying really nice and smooth right now. You can see I started to steam it right there. If you take your iron, you turn on your steam, and you put it next to the project, the steam goes into those little holes that are in the topper, and they inflate the topper. So what that does is, let's say that our little eyeball here didn't completely cover the background fabric. That takes the topper that's underneath the threads and it poofs it up. And then that makes the stitches all lay flat. But if there's any little pieces left, so maybe you just have these little pieces in the feet, you want to take an iron. I like to have an iron that I'm not in love with for this. You want to have an iron that doesn't have a Teflon coating. And if you touch the tip of the iron, to where the plastic is left, look, it melts. Last little bit. This is tearaway stabilizer underneath here. So if I take my kitty and I just sort of pull on her, it will tear right out of that hoop. So I can just peel it away again. Once you get under it, it peels off really nice. So again, you can take your scissors, don't cut through your fabric, and just peel that away enough that then you can pull this off. Now, what we made was this cute little kitty. And look at how fuzzy and soft the cuddle made it look. So those are all the things we have on our video today. I hope that if you've been afraid of doing applique in your embroidery machine, you're inclined to try it now. So, go find you something applique. We will see you soon. Have a nice night.